I am afraid that the ordinary citizen will not like to be told that the banks can and do create and destroy money. The amount of money in existence varies only with the actions of the banks, increasing and decreasing deposits and bank purchases. And they who control the credit of a nation direct the policy of government and hold in the hollow of their hands the destiny of the people. And then we all more or less know that. But man, this book is just blowing. This is that history of central banking and the enslavement of mankind. So crazy, this book. You know, I always think that I'm steeped in the history of the monetary system. You know, it's what I've spent, God, maybe 20 years. Now, this is what I tell people when we kind of talk about conspiracies and whatnot, right? And they always ask, why do you think that? You know, why would anyone do that? Why do you think things like that all the time? And my answer is very simple. It's because the exchange their job, you know, right there, their 8 hours a day that they work for doing something else, like right outside of their passion, right outside of their meaning of life, just something, you know, some weird thing they do at a business, right? I put those hours into researching weird stuff. And if you do enough weird stuff, research, you get to very bizarre things, never-ending bizarre things. And it takes a heavy toll because it does induce. And I think it was one of the primary reasons of my nihilistic approach to my 20s and 30s. Because I was just like, well, why the hell are we doing all this when there's a bunch of PDFs that run the world and steal from everyone? Like, what's the point, right? Why do we try to, you know how many people that I've known who have fought the good fight, diligent slaves. I mean, to the dotting the I, slashing the T on their taxes, and then they get audited, and they cost them like $8,000 just to like prove that they're diligent slaves. You know, it's sad, right? And to witness this unraveling and to see more outrage in Sydney Sweeney talking about jeans than a governing cabal eating and grapes aplenty of our hardline children. It's so weird. I think it's just such a hard thing to conceive that people would it's just easier to go, no, that, my friend, is crazy. Like, yeah, it is crazy. It's one of those things, you know, like, I always say I don't want to be right about anything. I don't want to be right about like 170, 2029. I do kind of want to be right about 29K because that's a great, it's maybe the last chance to get some serious gains out of Bitcoin until something changes, right? Until something changes, you have to become more of a speculator instead of a long-term holder, which you are. But in order to increase gains, you got to start, you know, playing the roller coaster. Where is this thing going to bottom? Where is this thing going to top? And then you just put your dirty fiat blood money in close to the bottom as you can, right? And then the days of the 20Xs or the 50, they're long gone, but you can still get it, you know, 1 to 2 to 3X, you know, and until things change, that's what will be, you know, that's the scraps that we'll be having to do while they rearrange the monetary alignment of the world. Now, another thing that I hope I'm wrong with is that one of the overarching conspiracies that I've been peddling And it was brought to my attention last week that I may even be known as a crazy conspiracy theorist. I am wearing a shirt called Conspiracy Theorist Batting 1000 that I did make, which puts me on a different echelon. So me saying that's crazy, well, it's like the box is checked. If you make a shirt that says Conspiracy Theorist Batting 1000, I suppose you are embracing it to a certain degree. But and this is how the reason why you become a conspiracy theorist is investing in the monetary paradigm. You learn geopolitics, you learn how history of the mechanics of money work, and then it's just so mind blowing that it can be like that. That you just one rabbit hole after another, So for it to be coming out now about all these. So anyway, the overarching thing was that there's a one world government trying to be had, right? We don't hear about that a lot because I think it's been compartmentalized into smaller, more ingestible and arguable formats where, all the slaves can go, no, this is right and you're wrong. This is right. It breaks up, like one breaks into four, and then four brings in the eight, and then all the slaves fight about the 8 things. And then if they get past the 8 things and realize, wait a second, this is all bullshit, they're faced with 4 more things to, no, this is right, you're wrong. When really it's always been us against the KpedoFilez that are eating and enjoying grapes with our hard lines, right? That's what it's always is. And it's been a hard kind of scarlet letter to live in a world that you're aware of that, right? And because it makes you nihilistic, right? But to me, it made being a father more important because it's like, okay, all right, well, we got here. The next generation's another chance to turn it all around, right? If it's not for the next generation, I mean, what do you got? You got nothing. You just peter out, right? But there is a change happening, kind of, and that's just me being delusionally bullish because I know that 80% of people are retards and they'll never change. But it doesn't take 80% to change. So do you remember, I don't know if you guys, anytime a video does well, I think the community doesn't watch it. It just gets shot out to like the other areas of YouTube. And it just, I don't know why I think that. But it was the Charlie Kirk one about the 23.6% fib of noticing, like these numbers matter because after 23.6% fib, things have a life of their own. So when I think about these other influencers, whether they're planned opposition or not, right? So when you take a Candace Owens, you would think, man, how is her brakes not failing? How is her car not, slamming into something at 110 miles per hour? Like all these things, things that happen to these people. And my take is that it's beyond 23.6% fib, so it's in a life of its own. Had they wanted to squash that, they would have had to squash it below the 23.6% fib of noticing and of waking up, right? So she's above that. Now her whole channel and influence has a life of their own. And so it can't be really effed with. Whereas Charlie Kirk's early abandonment of, I guess it was his Zionist approach to the world. He was like a devout Christian Zionist, kind of, whatever the hell that is. And when he reversed that, before it hit the 23.6% fib of adoption in his channel, they had to stop it. Now, there's this thing about Robert. Where is it here? That I didn't know. I thought I put a little thing. Oh, here it is. It's a little bit farther. Right. So there's pictures of American $5 and $2 bills. No, just $5 bill. So on June 4th, on June 4th, 1963, President John F. Kennedy issued Executive Order number 11110. So I never heard of this executive order, 11110, which instructed the Treasury to print $4 billion worth. Now, when we hear $4 billion, we're like, that's it, right? But you got to remember back in 63, 4 billion was 4 trillion. Might as well have been. It's just an astronomical amount of money back then. Treasury to print $4 billion worth of $2 and $5 bills. $2 bill. What does it say? Nothing as crooked as a $2 bill or something. We have a toonie. Well, that's Canada, and everyone's retarded here. $5 bills. These bills, backed by silver in the Treasury vaults, were issued free of debt and interest, with the seigniorage accruing not to the privately owned U.S. federal bank, but to the U.S. government. This note issue formed part of Kennedy's long-term plan to reduce the power of the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank. And then 4 months later, he was assassinated in Dallas. So you could see that as he was moving towards getting away from the Federal Reserve, before it hit the 23, like no one knew what the hell it was for. Like if you go back to the 1960s, nobody knew that there was, a central bank. What the hell's a central bank? Are you talking about the United States Federal Reserve? That's the United States Bank, right? That's the mindset back then. So, with this would have woke some people. A very small portion of the population would even understand what that meant, right? Moving towards a state-owned bank and not paying generations of interest to private bankers, right? That's just what we know now, but they didn't know that back then. And before the inertia and the momentum hit 23.6 and took on a life of its own, it was snuffed out. And then it didn't take on a life of its own. It kind of stalled there. Man, this book is crazy. I mean, I'm such a skeptic now. Like, I don't believe anything. Right, just because it tickles my taint, I don't necessarily believe it all. I basically read this with grok all the time. And the interesting thing is that a lot of these things here, grok will knee jerk say there's no substantiated evidence, but then when I provide like a date and a name that corresponds with the whatever I'm grokking, it'll be like, oh yeah, my bad. What do you mean you're bad? We're trying to make grok some sort of, alternative authority on everything, right? But all you got to do is, tweak something. It'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. That's E-Money's already grokking. Executive Order 11110. Jesse, I've always been under the impression that, hold on a second. Always been under the impression that it's about the cabal needing agents sharing the truth for them so that they aren't truly deceiving the public. Yeah. So that's the karmic responsibility. They have to soft disclosure everything in order to, they basically blanket everyone's complicity, once you know and don't do anything. So think about how dark it is right now. Think about how dark the concept of this PDF loving, eating, graping cabal being told. Like they're soft disclosing it now, right? This is like once you understand what's going on, here's the karmic responsibility, here's the soft disclosure. And I think humanity's failing, right? So unless we see things on stakes and maybe things swinging and maybe things burning, we will be complicit and it will continue, right? That's just how it goes. So this is like the test, the soft disclosure test. Okay, you want it? Here you go. Now what are you going to do? Nothing? Perfect. See you later. And then you just keep moving on. E-Money, I did start bullying grok. How about it? He's right. It will change his mind. Yeah, for sure. That's why some of those I've always been confused about the Kager things, because I'll use I'll ask Grok the same question all the time, and it gets a little bit different. But when I get a consensus, like I ask them, it's almost like when a cop's interviewing a suspect, and you're like asking the same question in different ways, seeing if they screw up. But that's what it is with Grok sometimes. But the soft disclosure of what's going on with this inhumane reptilian rent seeking, like the concept, is just like this book. This book ends with saying the inevitability of the World Bank and the world government coming because of the usurious concept of money, right? Which is just a human construct. We'll lend you this money. You got to make more than exists, or else we take what you think you have, right? It's an old concept. It was outlawed for most religions, but now it's like, because we play the intergenerational telephone game, right? Which, what I mean by that is, whatever happened a few generations ago is too far for the second or third generation. We don't even know what that was. Right. And so when you're learning about when Duke goes to his school and learns a bunch of stupid bullshit, they don't even know where the bullshit came from. It's just, this is what it is. And so, like, whatever the narrative ends up and concludes, say with COVID, a couple generations, they won't even remember the genesis of it. Just the consequences of will be normal life. Right. That's like with banks, right? That's why your grandma or your great grandma doesn't trust banks, because they're still part of that population that got rugged, right? Now we're far enough away we're victims of the slow rug, right? So instead of these banks just going whoopsie yoink and taking everyone's money and like skedaddling in their horse and carriage, we're victims of this slow rug, where you put your money in and they slowly steal it. But they steal it on such a massive level. Like, we're talking about a little bit times 2 billion people, right? It's so ingenious and so insidious, but that's just the way it is. And I think that unless there's things on stakes and things on fire and things swinging, it'll just keep going, because we will show them how complicit we actually are. And I don't think I think given a stake, given a lighter, and given something that swings and full autonomy to do that, I think most people would punish in those means. But they're not given the opportunity. And then they're smoked by that 4 and 8, right? So every time there's something that gets contentious, then they'll throw something else out, and now it's aliens, right? They're like, quick, look over here. We're gonna disclose. Everything will be heavily redacted. The alien stuff, right? But aliens is like the counter hard line of absurdity. So when it comes to children, the hard line is fast, and it's like it turns people into like ravaged monsters to a degree, right? It either makes you a lunatic like myself, or it turns you into I can't acknowledge that this exists. It's too dark for me, right? The opposite is the alien thing. It convinces everyone that this is a joke. Not everybody, but you know what I mean? It's like, wait a second. It's like they overplay their hand slightly too much. They may be a little bit over their skis on this one, but you got to remember, these people are boomers not taking advice from the Gen Xers right now. So the next sickos, the Gen Xers that are part of this monarchy, this power monarchy, they haven't really stepped in full force yet. So you have all these boomers making up the scenario. I got it. How about if they get a little close to this whole Epstein thing? Bring in the aliens. We'll just tell them about the aliens, right? And that's what happened. What is this? Remind me later. Quit reminding me. Skip this version. Boom. Don't see what I'm saying here. Now, this is a pretty interesting level here. If you can see, it's where we candlesticked way back here, and this big epic dump This is where we candlesticked. And then we threw down. This is where retail jumped. I'm selling. I'm a selling dad. And they all sold here. Wait a second. Where'd everybody go? I thought we're selling. And it went back, right? So this is an important level to hold. And I would just assume if it can't hold, we would instantly retest the 60, probably by the end of the week. Now, if it does, read Robert Anton Wilson books. Oh, I don't have my phone on me. If we can hold it, I have two bullish solutions, two bullish probabilities, not solutions, actually. We could see a mild rally back into the mean. So the mean right now is just this 20 moving 50 average DNA swapping. I had a theory on making out with DNA swapping. I always thought that the enjoyment and excitement of making out was somehow to do with the saliva swapping, and your brain's going like your brain almost like an ASICS computer, like trying to solve the and then they got that, and so the longer you make out or have the will or excitement to make out, it's because you haven't figured out the DNA, whether it's compatible or not. And then tick, 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 tick. When we all know, once the lock fits, tick, 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 making out is no longer, it's almost gross, right? Or it's just like laborious. Anyway, for me, that's what happened to me. And so, Wick, damn, I've known some good kissers. That's because if you're still interested and they're not, and you can feel it, right? It's just not the same. Doesn't have the same fire. But if you still have the same fire and they don't, that's because their system figured out tick, 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 the DNA was compatible or not compatible. So if it is compatible, it doesn't continue on. It's just blink, okay, it's a match, right? Or blink, it's not, and then there's a little more disdain for it, and maybe a turn off. But what the hell? Why am I talking about making out on a Tuesday morning? Gross, right? Anyway, oh yeah, the DNA swapping of the 50 and the 20 moving average. We could see a mild, like if we got back to 66.5, it would rather be a bullish day, right? 3,000, it's a 5%. Is it a 5% banger from here? Let's see if we get back to the 20 moving average. Yeah, 5%, 50%, 7%, or the 50 moving average is about 7%. That's just the big day for Bitcoin these days, right? Because we are in a downward progression and we're not really showing signs of any improvement. And this will hold off. So that's first step one of my bullish delusion, just to get back to the mean, for Christ's sake. Just, can we revert? Do we still have the ability to revert to a mean? We just want simple mean reversion here. Ta-da upside, not downside. And so if we do that, we can get overly bullish and think about the rejection zone at 74.5. Look at how the 200 moving average, what this rejection zone has been here, I think, since about here. The 200 moving average was way up there. So we are now getting confluent 200 moving. This is the 4-hour chart. 20 moving or 200 moving average confluence on the 4-hour chart with this rejection zone at 74.5. So it's starting to kind of make sense. I'll be a little surprised / not surprised when and if it does hit 74.5. But you never know, right? So that's the only importance of the 200 moving average on the 4-hour chart is this confluence. Other than that, it is another mean to revert to. But I mean, we got to be over the 200 moving average just to have a bullish conversation, right? But we're not. So we're actually losing 63, right? TradingView is asking you to, okay, allow. Does this happen to you? Allow. Okay, allow. Oh, well, maybe I'll block it then if you don't want to allow it. No, okay. Oh, maybe I'll hit this X here. Will this do it? No. Oh, how about allow? How about allow? This is stupid. Like, what the hell? And now I dare not refresh because then it may pop it into allow. Okay, I'll block it then. No, not block it either. Let's see. Yeah. See, now it's the 4-hour chart. God, these things. Let's go. Well, I got to get it back to the weekly chart here. Bitcoin weekly. Now, what is this weekly chart? It's on Coinbase. And it is the weekly. Jesus, see? That's why I'm scared to do that thing. That's why I hit allow and block so many times, because I don't want to do this. I don't want to deal with this bullshit. So this is where the 200 moving average actually means something. This is the 200. This is the weekly chart. And it is right at this 58.5 level. Now, it's obviously going up in the long run. But you can see, what are we doing here? That which once wicked will get kindled still. Yes, it will. We're seeing it play out right now. We know that. We go into denial of wicks. Wick. It's a classic case of wick denial, right? When we're like, no, this time's different. Not gonna candlestick the wick like those kids do all the time, right? Every time, those pesky little choir of kids. Remember the choir of kids? That which one's wick? They would go by. That was actually from the Rihanna video, because making those videos, like when the idea came, well, I'll have a choir of kids go by. I only have about 4 minutes to get it until it throws me off the schedule back in the day. And the only thing I could find was like a Rihanna video. Now I'm thinking, that seems a little weird. One of these Satanists with a bunch of kids on the beach. Hey, see that when you look at it now, it kind of gets a little more nefarious. So we are just gonna, what is that? That's 60. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Just candlestick this wick by the end of the week, Sunday. Now that's the big kicker, because this is a self-fulfilling prophecy to a certain degree. We all know that price likes to go to the 200 moving average on the weekly. Now, how long did it take? Let's do some time exercises here. Come on. Time exercises. How long did it take to go from here to here? Took 20 weeks. So we're on the 20 week. Now, how long did it take to go from here to there back? And this top, 31. So we're, 2.5 months ahead of schedule for the 20 moving average, or the 200 moving average. 11 weeks, roughly, 3 months ahead. So maybe, time is speeding up. I mean, I go through time as like a passport renewal phases. Like, what? I got to renew my passport? I just did it 5 years ago. And all of a sudden it's time to renew my passport again. So we are 11 weeks ahead of schedule. That's assuming we hit it this week. Now, I do think we're going to see, you can see how much this rejection zone means nothing, really. So like when we're talking about the 4-hour chart, this kind of looks like a healthy, like if we were to have a bunch of green candles up to here, this would look pretty impressive, right? But what on the big scheme of things, I mean, this is where it is on the weekly chart. It's no big deal. We're just talking about like this tiny little pump. If we zoom out, like when things play out, let's say we get up to 74.5 and then that's it. And then we go back down underneath the 200 moving average. It'll be hard to find this, relief rally to 74.5. You will have to, widen and dig. Oh, I see there. It had that relief rally up to the rejection zone. And it'll be hard to see, right? But that's how meaningless That's why I think like when you see here from the 4-hour chart, it's like, oh, that'd be a crazy bullish journey, right? Not really, right? This on the 4-hour chart, everything's looks a little more dynamic and huge, but when you zoom out on the weekly, this is just really a nothing burger up to 74.5. However, it'll be interesting to see if and when it does happen. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this video.